Have you ever heard the idea that in Tartaria they valued not gold, but the right to go first? Because in some old market towns, first wasn't pride, it was power. Picture a bridge at dawn, not a pretty postcard bridge, a choke point, a gate, a rule carved into wood and brass. One caravan gets to cross first, and that one line changes everything. Here's the deal. Whoever crosses the bridge first buys the goods at the old price. Old price. Not yesterday's rumor. A real price, locked in like a secret. And the second caravan, they pay the new price. The third, worse. By lunch, you're not just poorer, you're finished for the season. So, men start showing up in the dark. They bribe, they fight, they pray. Because a single step forward can mean warm bread in winter, or your family selling tools to survive. And then the archivist finds something that shouldn't exist. A small brass token stamped first. A ledger with a date that's 10 years wrong. And an old photo where the bridge mechanism is there in one print and painted out in the next. So, what was this really? A simple market trick, or part of a bigger system? A network that controlled whole cities by controlling one thing. Who gets to go first? And if someone erased it from the records, what were they so scared people would remember? Before we start, if you love mysteries hiding in plain sight, hit subscribe. This one gets stranger with every small detail. The token sits behind glass in a small regional museum, brass, worn smooth at the edges, stamped with a single word in an old script, first. The museum label calls it decorative, a merchant's trinket, maybe even ceremonial, but the wear doesn't match the story. The edges are worked down by years of handling. Deep thumb grooves, the kind you see on coins that lived in pockets, palms, and sleeves. The brass is darkened in blotchy patterns that hint at moisture, friction, and time. And yet, the stamp in the center is still crisp. Whoever made this didn't just want a token, they wanted the word to survive. First, not leader, not honored, not winner, just first. The archivist noticed it on a Tuesday. She wasn't hunting anything special. She was simply sorting a donation box from an estate sale, old farm tools, a cracked mirror, and a stack of shipping receipts that smelled like mildew and smoke. And then this. She turned the token over in her hand, felt the grooves, checked the catalog card. The card read, decorative token, origin unknown, circa the 1880s. But the back of the token had something the card didn't mention, a mark, so faint you'd miss it unless you held it under direct light. A bridge, not scratched in, not sketched, stamped clean and exact, like an official seal. The archivist photographed it, tilted the lamp, zoomed in, 3 arches, a gatehouse on one side, and something that didn't belong on a decorative trinket, a small circle set right at the center of the span, hollow, like a window or a chamber. She checked the museum records. No bridge, no gatehouse, no note explaining why someone would stamp first onto brass and then let it be handled until it nearly melted into the shape of a thumb. So she did what archivists do. She started digging. The first clue came from a box marked Municipal Records, Market District, 1873 to 1902. Inside were ledgers, thick leather-bound books, written in ink that had faded into a rusty brown. Most pages were normal. Grain sales, livestock transfers, tax receipts. The daily math of a small trade city. Then she hit page 47. One line sat in the margin, written in a different hand, darker ink, underlined twice. Old price applies only to the first crossing. No explanation, no law attached, no paragraph above it to make it make sense. Just that sentence, hanging there like a warning no one wanted to say out loud. The archivist flipped forward, then back. She searched for anything that answered it. Nothing. But a few pages later, another note appeared. Second caravan pays market rate as of noon bell. And at the bottom, nearly scratched out like someone regretted writing it at all. Third caravan. No guarantee. She read it again, slower. Old price. First crossing. Market rate. Noon bell. This wasn't decoration. This was a rule. She pulled the next ledger, then another. The pattern didn't fade. It repeated, different years, different clerks, different handwriting, but the same structure kept coming back, like a machine that never stopped turning. First caravan, old price. Second caravan, new price. Third caravan, good luck. And beside these notes, in the margin, again and again, the same small symbol. A bridge, 3 arches, gatehouse, that hollow circle at the center. The archivist leaned back in her chair. This wasn't just a token, it was a key. She went back to the donation box. She rechecked the receipts one by one until she found a line dated 1891, a shipping manifest, plain, routine. Except for the sentence at the bottom, token presented at Dawn Gate, first crossing confirmed, Dawn Gate. That wasn't poetry, that was a checkpoint. She opened old survey drawings, property records, city maps with faded grid lines. There had been a bridge on the eastern edge of the market district, stone, built in 1867, demolished in 1933. The official reason was simple: unsafe, flood damage, structural concerns. But the demolition report itself was missing. And in the photograph archive, the only photograph she could find of the bridge, something felt off. The image showed the bridge clearly: 3 arches, gatehouse on the left. But at the center of the span, where the hollow circle should have been, there was nothing, just smooth stone, clean as if the feature never existed. Then, she found a second print of the same photo. Different archive, same year. In this one, the circle was there, faint but visible. Someone had painted it out in the first print. The archivist held the token up to the light again. First, a rule that decided who paid what. A bridge feature that vanished between prints, and a piece of brass that had passed through so many hands it looked more used than money. She opened her journal and wrote, "This isn't money, it's a key." Then beneath it, what door did it open? The archivist couldn't let it go. A token, a bridge, a rule written in the margins like a secret everyone understood. But nobody explained out loud. She needed to understand the mechanism, not the whole mystery yet, just the logic, just the math. So she built a timeline, drew it out on paper, made it clean and simple. Imagine a market town, small. A river cuts through the center. One bridge connects the farmland to the market square. Every morning, caravans arrive. Grain, livestock, tools, fabric. They line up at the bridge before dawn, waiting in the dark. The rule is this: the first caravan to cross buys at yesterday's price. Everyone else pays today's price. It sounds harmless, almost fair, until you stop and ask what yesterday's price really means. Let's say grain costs 10 coins per barrel on Monday. Tuesday morning, the price rises to 12 coins, not just because people got greedy. It can be weather, rumor, or a bad harvest 2 provinces away. The first caravan crosses the bridge at dawn, buys 200 barrels, pays the old rate, 10 coins each. Total cost, 2,000 coins. The second caravan crosses 10 minutes later. Same 200 barrels. New rate, 12 coins each. Total cost, 2,400 coins. Same grain, same seller, same morning. A difference of 400 coins for crossing second. Now stretch that across a season. A merchant who crosses first every week saves 400 coins. Every week. Over 3 months, 4,800 coins. That's enough to buy a second wagon, hire more hands, and reach the next city before your rivals even recover. The merchant who crosses second? He survives. Barely. The merchant who crosses third? He sells tools by winter. Suddenly, first isn't a courtesy. It's the difference between growth and collapse. The archivist found a diary entry that made it real. Written by a caravan leader, 1878. We arrived 2 hours before dawn, still fourth in line. Close was there at midnight, his horses frothing, his men armed. By the time the gate opened, I'd lost 300 coins before I'd even crossed. My wife asked why I came home bruised. I told her I slipped. He didn't slip, he fought. Because standing in line wasn't passive, it was war in slow motion. Men bribed the gatekeeper. They blocked rivals with their own wagons. They loosened wheel pins on a competitor's cart in the dark, just enough to make it fail at the worst time. One report mentioned a caravan that collapsed halfway across the bridge. Convenient. The wagon behind it got stuck, lost its place, paid the new price. No charges filed, no investigation. Just a note in the margin. Bridge cleared by noon. But here's what bothered the archivist most. Why would anyone agree to this? Why would a city build a system where a single bridge gate could decide who gets rich and who gets crushed? She found an answer in a merchant guild charter, 1872. The public explanation was neat and polished. The first crossing rule ensures calm commerce and discourages market panic. Prices are set daily. The first caravan receives the benefit of prior agreement. This promotes fairness and stability. Fairness, stability, beautiful words. And then, 3 lines down, in smaller script, the bridgekeeper shall determine order of passage according to standards of conduct and guild standing. The bridgekeeper decides the order, not a clock, not a clean queue, a man. One man deciding who crosses first, which means one man deciding who wins. The archivist pulled another file. A complaint letter, unsigned, 1885. I arrived at midnight. I was first. But when the gate opened, Hennig's caravan was waved through ahead of mine. When I protested, the keeper said my paperwork was unclear. It was the same paperwork I've used for 9 years. The letter ended there. No answer, no follow-up, no correction. Just silence. The archivist sat with that for a long time. A system that rewards first, but lets one man decide what first even means. That isn't a market, that is control. And then she found the second photograph. Same bridge design, different city, 400 kilometers east. Same 3 arches, same gatehouse, same hollow circle at the center. And on the gate, carved into the wood. First crossing, old rate applies. Same rule, same layout, different language. The archivist circled the 2 cities on her map. Then she found a third, then a fourth, all along the same trade route, all with the same bridge design, all with the same rule. This wasn't one town's strange custom. This was a pattern. This was a network, and someone built it on purpose. The archivist stared at her map. 4 cities, same bridge design, same rule, the same token symbol stamped in the margins of ledgers. All of them connected by a single trade route running east to west like a spine. And that raised the question she couldn't ignore. Why would anyone agree to this? Why would merchants accept a system where one gatekeeper could decide their fate? Where being second meant real financial damage? Where being third could end your trade for the season? Maybe forever? She found 2 answers. One was written clearly in official records. The other lived between the lines. The official story showed up in city council minutes. From 1874, preserved in neat handwriting, like something meant to be read aloud. A merchant delegation had petitioned the council. Their complaint was simple: price chaos. Prices changed too fast. Rumors ran through town like sparks in dry straw. A bad harvest in one province could push costs up everywhere by nightfall. Merchants couldn't plan. Families couldn't budget. The market felt less like work and more like gambling with bread. So, the council offered a solution. Stabilize the system. Set prices once per day. Lock them in at dawn and reward the merchants who showed up early, prepared, with proper documentation. The first crossing rule, they argued, encouraged discipline. It pushed professionalism. It created order. It made trade predictable. The minutes called it a mechanism of civic harmony. Harmony. The archivist underlined that word twice. Because harmony is what people write when they want the public to relax. Then she found the private story, a letter that was never sent. It was folded inside a guild treasurer's personal journal, dated 1876. The council says the rule brings order. What they mean is control. The bridgekeeper doesn't just manage the line. He manages who prospers. Families who pay him well cross first, no matter when they arrived. Families who question the guild find themselves delayed. It isn't harmony, it's a tax with no receipt. The letter was unsigned, but the handwriting matched other notes in the same journal, and the treasurer never mailed it, probably because he understood exactly what would happen if he did. The archivist pulled files on the bridgekeepers, 8 names across 60 years. Most served for decades, long tenures, unusually long for a town post. She found salary records, modest pay, barely above a clerk's wage. Then she found their estate inventories. When the bridgekeepers died, they owned land, warehouses, shares in merchant companies. One owned 4 houses. Another left his children enough money to never work, on a clerk's salary. The math didn't fit, unless the job came with invisible income. payments that never appeared in books, gifts that were never recorded, favors that grew year after year, like quiet interest. The archivist wrote a line in her notes. The bridgekeeper wasn't a manager. He was a gatekeeper in every sense, and gates only matter when people are desperate to pass. Then she returned to the map. 4 cities, 4 bridges, 4 keepers. And this time, she saw something else. The distances between the cities were not random. They were roughly 120 kilometers apart, about 1 long day's travel by wagon. That meant the route wasn't just a road, it was timed. If you crossed the first bridge at dawn, you could reach the second bridge by nightfall, camp, sleep, then cross at dawn again. And if you got the first treatment again, you paid the old price again, but only if you had the token, only if the keeper let you through. And if you were delayed at the first bridge, even by an hour, you could miss the dawn window at the second, which meant paying the new price there, which meant losing money in the next city, and the next. One small delay didn't stay small. It spread down the route like a crack in ice. The archivist found a shipping log from 1881, a spice caravan, 6 wagons, traveling the full route. First city, crossed at dawn, old price, profit margin, healthy. Second city, delayed by paperwork review, crossed mid-morning, new price, profit margin, thin. Third city, arrived late, crossed afternoon, new price again, profit margin, gone. Fourth city, never reached. The caravan turned back. The log ended with one plain line. Sold remaining stock at loss. Dismissed 3 workers. Routes suspended until spring. 1 delay. 1 decision at 1 gate. And an entire operation collapsed. But the detail that made the archivist stop cold came later. She found a second token. Different archive. Different city. More than 500 kilometers away. Same brass, same worn edges, same word, first. But this one carried a different bridge mark on the back, 5 arches instead of 3. She cross-checked it with architectural records. That bridge had been demolished in 1928. Official reason, structural instability. But the demolition report was missing, just like the first one. And the city council minutes from that year, the pages that should have authorized the demolition, had 6 pages torn out, not ragged, clean cuts, surgical. Someone removed them on purpose. The archivist laid both tokens side by side, different cities, different bridges, different gate inscriptions in different languages, but the same system, the same rule, the same silent agreement that first was worth more than gold, and the same effort decades later to erase the evidence. She wrote in her journal, "This isn't about one bridge, it's about a network, and someone didn't want us to see how big it was. 2 tokens, more than 500 kilometers apart." The archivist should have felt satisfied. A pattern was forming, but a pattern without an explanation is just a shadow, and the archives weren't giving her anything solid. So she widened the search. She started with market charters, dry documents, legal language, the kind of paperwork most researchers avoid because it drains the life out of a story. But buried in a charter from 1879, from a third city nearly 600 kilometers north, she found a single sentence that hit like a nail. All merchants entering the market district via the Eastern Bridge shall observe the first caravan provision as established by municipal ordinance. First caravan provision, not tradition, not custom, provision. Like it was law. The archivist went straight to the ordinance records. No ordinance existed, or rather, it had existed on paper. The index card listed it neatly. Ordinance 47B, Market Bridge Protocol, enacted 1868. But the ordinance itself was gone. The box that should have held it was empty. Just the card. No document, no copy, no replacement. She found the same gap in 2 other cities. Index cards referencing bridge ordinances. Empty boxes, missing pages. Always the same time window, 1867 to 1872. Always the same topic, bridge protocols and market entry. And that was the first time the archivist felt the air change. This wasn't messy history. This was a clean absence. Then she found the blueprint. Not in municipal files. In a university archive, engineering department. Inside a donation from a retired civil engineer's estate. a rolled sheet dated 1870. The blueprint showed a bridge, 3 arches, load calculations, material specs, everything you'd expect. But at the southern approach, where the road met the bridge, there was an addition, a small structure, square, 10 meters on each side, and the label read, Resonance Chamber, Acoustic Regulation. Acoustic regulation for a bridge. The archivist stared at it for a long time. Bridges need stability, weight, flood protection. They do not need sound control, not unless the bridge is doing something besides carrying wagons. She checked the notes in the margin, handwritten, faded, but still readable. Chamber tuned to 112 Hz, sustained minimum 8 seconds, reinforced copper plating on interior walls, 112 Hz, 8 seconds. Copper plating. That wasn't decoration. That was engineering built around a specific target. But the blueprint never explained the reason. No why, no for what. Just instructions, as if the purpose was understood by anyone who mattered. A week later, she found the third object, a shipping log dated 1883 from another city again. The log was obsessive in its detail. Every wagon weighed down to the kilogram. Every departure time recorded to the minute, but the destinations were missing, not blank, scratched out. Thin black lines dragged through every destination column, careful, consistent, deliberate. The rest of the page was untouched. Only the destinations were destroyed, as if someone wanted to preserve the fact that shipments happened, but erase where they went. She held the page up to the light. Underneath the scratches, she could make out fragments. East, bridge, dawn, that was all. And then the dates stopped behaving like dates. She began cross-checking token discoveries against bridge construction records. One token had been found in a mason's tool chest. The chest was dated 1867. The token inside carried a bridge mark. She checked the bridge records. That bridge wasn't built until 1877, 10 years later. She checked again. Different sources, city archives, engineering surveys, newspaper announcements, all of them agreed. Bridge completed 1877, but the token with its exact mark had been sealed away since 1867. Then she found another mismatch. A custom stamp dated 1871 showing the 5-arch bridge design. But that bridge wasn't built until 1879, 8 years early. The archivist made a list. Tokens that predated the bridges they marked. Ordinances referenced by index cards with the actual pages missing. Demolition reports that vanished. Boxes that should have held laws, but held air. Blueprints with resonance chambers that had no business being on a normal bridge. She tried to stay rational. Maybe the tokens were minted early. Some kind of advance issue. Maybe the dates were copied wrong. Maybe the demolition reports were misfiled. Maybe the ordinance pages had been moved to another box. But when she added it up, across 6 cities, 4 bridges, 3 missing ordinances, and 2 impossible date conflicts, the coincidences stacked too neatly to be random. She pulled her map out again, marked every city where evidence appeared. Bridge cities, all of them, all on trade routes, all tied to the same first crossing rule, all showing missing records, and all spaced by distances that matched roughly 1 day's travel by wagon. Then she noticed the numbers repeating like a code. The resonance frequency, 112 Hz. The bridge spacing, roughly 120 kilometers. The departure window, dawn, precise, consistent. This wasn't organic growth. This wasn't a messy tradition spreading slowly. This was planned. She wrote in her journal, someone designed this, built it across multiple cities, coordinated construction, set the rules, and then, decades later, erased the proof. One more document caught her eye. A memo dated 1932, Municipal Works Department. Short, cold, bureaucratic. Bridge demolition proceeds as scheduled. Do not retain structural samples. Do not archive mechanism components. Dispose per instruction from above. Instruction from above, not city council, not an engineering review. From above. The archivist circled that phrase until the pencil nearly tore the page. The archivist spread the map across her desk. 6 cities, 6 bridges, all demolished between 1928 and 1934, all with missing demolition reports, all tied to the same rule, first crossing, old price. She placed a pin at each location. Then she stepped back. The pins formed a line, not perfectly straight, but close enough to make your stomach tighten. East to west, following the old trade route like stepping stones across a river. Each city sat roughly 120 kilometers from the next. Exactly one long day's travel by wagon. She measured the distances 3 times. Margin of error, less than 5 kilometers. That isn't coincidence, that is design. She returned to the engineering blueprint, the one with the resonance chamber, 112 hertz, sustained for 8 seconds. Copper-lined walls? She still didn't know what it meant. So, she called someone who would. Dr. Petrov taught acoustics at the university. Retired now, but still sharp. The archivist met him for coffee and slid the blueprint across the table. He studied it for a long time, the way a mechanic studies a strange engine. Finally, he said, "This is a signal chamber." "A signal for what?" she asked. "Low-frequency transmission," he said. 112 hertz sits low enough that most people don't hear it cleanly. You feel it. In your chest. In your teeth. In your bones. She looked back at the drawing. Why would a bridge need that? He tapped the note about copper. Copper helps the tone carry and last. If you rang a heavy bell inside this chamber, tuned correctly, the vibration would travel for kilometers, not as a loud chime, as a pulse. A pulse that tells people what? She asked. Timing, he said. Coordination. If multiple bridges had chambers like this, and they all rang on schedule, you could synchronize departure windows across a whole region. The archivist felt something shift in her chest, the way it does when a theory stops being a theory. How far could a signal like that travel? She asked. It depends on the ground and the air, he said. But with copper reinforcement and a low tone, easily 100 kilometers, maybe more. 120 kilometers between cities. She thanked him and left. Back at the archive, she pulled every bell tower record she could find. Most cities had bell towers, normal civic infrastructure, nothing special. But 3 of the bridge cities had towers built in the same 5-year window, 1868 to 1873, the same years the bridges were built, and each tower had the same odd feature, a sealed lower chamber, no windows, no public access. The construction notes called them foundation supports, but foundation supports don't need copper plating. She found a work order from 1871, bell installation and acoustic calibration. Acoustic calibration for a civic bell tower. Then she found a diary entry, a bellcaster's apprentice, dated 1872. The master worked 3 weeks on the new bell. He said the tone had to match precisely, not for beauty, for function. He tested it against a tuning bar, 112 cycles. When I asked why it mattered, he told me to stop asking questions. 112, the same number as the resonance chamber, the same number now appearing in more than one place. She mapped the bell towers. Every city with a first crossing rule had a tower. Every tower was built within 2 years of the bridge, and every tower stood in clear line of sight of the bridge approach. She checked what she could, weather notes, wind patterns, even basic descriptions of the valley air in different seasons. Then she understood what this could be. If you rang the bells at dawn, precisely at dawn, the low tone would carry. Not as a pretty chime for a church crowd, as a signal felt more than heard, a synchronization pulse, telling merchants across the region the window is open, now. But the detail that made her hands shake came next. A maintenance log dated 1899, a bell tower inspection, routine on the surface. The inspector wrote, low chamber accessed, mechanism intact, striker arm functional, copper resonance plates require cleaning but remain operational. Mechanism, not just bell. Mechanism? She searched for more references. She found 3 more inspection logs. Same cities, same language. Mechanism functional. Mechanism sealed per instruction. Mechanism removed, 1931. Removed, just like the bridges. She pulled a city planning map from 1925. The bell tower was marked clearly, public building, civic use. Then she pulled the 1935 edition. The tower was still there, but the lower chamber was gone from the architectural drawing, erased from the plan the way a mistake is erased from a photograph, painted out, just like the hollow circle on the bridge. The archivist sat with that for a long time. 6 cities, 6 bridges with resonance chambers, 6 bell towers with sealed lower chambers, all built in the same 5-year period, all tuned to the same frequency, all demolished, gutted, or stripped within a decade of each other, and all cleaned out of the official record. This wasn't 6 cities copying each other by accident. This was infrastructure, coordinated, planned, built for a purpose, then dismantled with the same cold precision. She wrote in her journal, "New question, who built this network, and why did someone spend decades erasing it?" Then below that, the tokens weren't just keys, they were proof you belonged to the system. And finally, which means someone decided who belonged and who didn't. She looked at the map one more time. The pins formed a spine, a trade route, a network of controlled gates, synchronized signals, and price windows that rewarded speed. Whoever controlled this network controlled commerce across an entire region. Not with armies, not with speeches, with bells, bridges, and the right to go first. The archivist had mapped the network, 6 cities, synchronized bells, coordinated signals. But she still didn't understand what it felt like, what it meant to stand in that line before dawn, to wait, to watch, to know that one step forward could change your life. So, she reconstructed it. The diary belonged to a caravan master named Gregor Voss, 1889, 43 entries, meticulous, written in pencil on cheap paper. Most pages were logistics, inventory counts, route notes, weather observations. But 3 entries were different. They described the morning routine at the Eastern Bridge. Entry, March 12, 1889, arrived at the bridge approach 2 hours before dawn, already 5th in line, could see our breath in the lamplight. No one spoke. The silence felt wrong, like church, but colder. 5th in line, 2 hours early, and still not first. Entry, March 19, 1889. This time we came at midnight. Andre stayed with the horses while I checked the line. We were 3rd. Klause was first again. His men looked like they hadn't slept in days. Second position was a grain hauler I didn't recognize. Heavy wagon, armed escort. When I nodded to him, he turned away. Midnight, 4 hours before dawn. Armed escorts. This wasn't calm commerce. This was competition with teeth. Entry, April 2, 1889. We arrived 3rd, but by the time the gate opened, we were 5th. Henrik's wagon broke down directly behind us during the night, blocked us in. By the time we cleared it, 2 others had moved ahead. I confronted Henrik after. He smiled, said accidents happen. His knuckles were bruised. The line wasn't a simple queue. It was a battlefield moving 1 inch at a time. Sabotage, intimidation, bribes paid in the dark, and the bridgekeeper watching it all, deciding nothing out loud, allowing everything in silence. The archivist found a second account, a letter from 1881 written by a merchant's wife to her sister. Jakob came home with his face split open. He won't say what happened, but I heard from Marta that there was a fight at the bridge gate. 3 men, fists and clubs. The watch didn't intervene. They said it happened on the approach road, outside city jurisdiction. Jakob won't go back. We'll have to hire someone else to make the crossing. We can't afford it, but we can't afford not to. Outside city jurisdiction. The approach road was a gray zone. No protection, no clean rules, just men, ambition, and darkness. Then she found customs records, injury reports filed at the bridge gate, required for insurance claims. 1876. Merchant sustained broken arm during wagon collision. Accident. 1878. Guard. Reports facial lacerations. Cause unknown. 1882. Caravan leader unconscious upon arrival. Revived. No explanation given. 1884. 2 horses found lame. Wagon delayed. Merchant disputes sabotage claim. No evidence retained. Every report used soft words. Accident. Unknown. No evidence. But the pattern was hard to miss. Violence wasn't a failure of the system. It was part of the system. Then she found the entry that changed the shape of everything. Gregor Voss again. April 9, 1889. We were second in line. Dawn came. The air was still. Then the bell rang. Not the usual chime, the low tone, the one you feel more than hear. It vibrated through the stones, through the wagon frame. I felt it in my ribs, and when it rang, the first wagon moved forward, not rushed, smooth, like they'd rehearsed it. The gate opened, the keeper nodded, and Klaus's caravan rolled through without a word. The rest of us just waited, like we were all part of the same machine. The tone rang again. Second wagon moved. I realized we weren't racing. We were synchronized. The archivist read it 3 times. The line moved like one body, not chaos, not a scramble, precision. She cross-checked the date, April 9, 1889. Then she checked the bell tower logs. That morning, the tower bell was rung twice. Standard civic schedule, dawn call, then market opening. But the maintenance log included one extra line. Low mechanism engaged, sustained tone, 8 seconds. 8 seconds. The exact duration from the resonance chamber, blueprint. She found another diary after that. Different caravan, different city, same year. The low bell rang and everyone moved at once. Not frantic, orderly, like soldiers. I'd never seen merchants behave that way. It was eerie, beautiful almost, but wrong. Beautiful, that word stuck with her. Because the system worked, not fair, not kind, but efficient. The bell rang, the gates opened, the line moved, no shouting, no debate, just order. Merchants knew their place, they knew the rules, they knew the cost of breaking them, and they obeyed. The archivist sat with that. A system that turned competition into choreography. Men fought in the dark, and then moved in perfect silence when the tone hit their bones. It rewarded violence before dawn, and demanded discipline after. This wasn't just about speed, it was about control. She found one last entry from Gregor Voss. April 15, 1889. I asked Klause how he always gets first position. He looked at me like I was a child, said, "You think this is about arriving early? It's about knowing when the bell will ring." Then he walked away. I don't know what he meant, but I'm afraid I'm starting to understand. The archivist circled that sentence. Knowing when the bell will ring. Not guessing, knowing, which meant someone was telling him. The archivist kept returning to one phrase. Knowing when the bell will ring. Not hoping, not guessing, knowing. That meant the bell wasn't random, and if the bell wasn't random, then someone was controlling it. So, she went back to the blueprints. She had been looking at the bridges like simple structures, stone, arches, weight, flood resistance. Now she forced herself to look at them like machines, and once she did, the drawing stopped looking normal. Every bridge shared the same basic layout, 3 arches or 5, depending on the river, a gatehouse on the approach side, and always, a narrow section just before the gate. The plans called it a controlled entry lane, 1 wagon wide, no room to pass, no room to squeeze around. You crossed single file, or you didn't cross at all. She pulled construction notes from a bridge project dated 1871. The city council had questioned the design. Why make the approach so narrow? It would slow traffic. The engineer's reply was written in the margin. Narrow approach ensures orderly passage and prevents congestion during peak market hours. Single file entry allows for proper inspection and fee collection. Proper inspection, fee collection, reasonable words, good enough for a meeting. But inside the technical drawings, she found something that didn't match the public explanation. Beneath the approach road, there were hollow chambers. They weren't marked as supports. They weren't marked as drainage. They had their own label, subsurface cavities, acoustic distribution. She traced the cavities with her finger. They ran from the bell tower foundation, underground, straight toward the bridge gatehouse, a tunnel, not for people, for vibration. Then she found a second blueprint, different city, same feature, underground channels connecting the bell tower to the bridge, lined with copper plates. The note beside them didn't sound like a bridge at all. Resonance conduit maintains signal integrity. Signal, not sound, not echo. Signal. She was starting to see the shape of it. The bells didn't only ring into open air. They sent a low pulse through the ground, guided by copper-lined channels, aimed right where it mattered, to the bridge, to the gate, to whatever sat inside that gatehouse. Next, she found an engineer's journal from 1873. Short entries, dry, almost cold, but one paragraph stood out like a confession. Completed installation of gate synchronization apparatus. Tested bell trigger mechanism. Response time, 1.2 seconds. Reliable. Client satisfied. Payment received. Instructed to surrender all working drawings upon completion. Surrender all working drawings. That could be normal for private work. But 2 lines later, the tone changed. Asked why the mechanism needed to be invisible, was told, not for ears, for air. Not for ears, for air. The archivist sat with that phrase for a long time, and then it clicked. This system wasn't meant to be heard clearly. It was meant to be felt. A low vibration below comfortable hearing. Not a message you could argue with. Not a shout you could pretend you missed. Just a physical cue that told your body, now. She found maintenance records for one bridge dated 1897. A crew had been sent after a flood to repair structural damage, but the repair notes mentioned something else. Replaced copper plating in subchamber, reset striker alignment, calibrated gate release to bell frequency, tested 3 times, functional. Gate release, not a guard swinging doors by hand, a release tied to a frequency. She cross-checked customs records and found a complaint from 1898. A merchant claimed the gate had opened too early and let arrival pass ahead of schedule. The bridgekeeper's written reply was calm and final. Gate operates on civic schedule. No deviation occurred. But the merchant insisted. The bell hadn't rung yet, but the gate opened anyway. The case was dismissed. No inquiry, no measurements, no witnesses recorded. What caught the archivist's eye was the timing. The complaint was filed 3 weeks after the flood repairs, right after the gate mechanism was calibrated. Then she pulled another blueprint, this one showing the inside of the gatehouse. Behind the main structure was a small hidden chamber. Inside it, suspended on chains, was a bronze cylinder. The label read, Acoustic trigger weight, counterbalance for gate release. She followed the mechanism with a pencil line. The cylinder was hollow, shaped to resonate at a specific tone. So, if the bell rang, if that 112 Hz pulse traveled through copper channels, the cylinder would vibrate in response. That vibration would shift the balance, the lock would slip, and the gate would release. Not by a human hand, by sound. The archivist tested the idea the only way she could. She measured the cavity sizes, she compared the notes. Copper plates, tuned chambers, the 112 Hz target. She kept the math simple, the way engineers do when they don't want to fool themselves. And on paper, it worked. A bell tuned to 112 Hz, rung inside a copper-lined chamber, could send a strong vibration into a guided path underground. That vibration could reach the gatehouse. It could shake a tuned weight, and a tuned weight could trip a release, which meant the first wagon in line would move forward on a schedule, automatically, precisely, with the bridgekeeper standing there as if he controlled it, even if he didn't touch a thing. Then she found one more note, an engineer's letter dated 1875, never sent. They asked me to build a gate that opens itself. I asked why. They said it removes human error. I built it. But I think the real reason is different. A man can be questioned. A man can be bribed, threatened, or forced to explain. But a mechanism, it just works. And if no one knows it's there, no one can challenge it. The letter stopped there. No signature, no goodbye. Just a thought left hanging, like the writer didn't dare add more. The archivist leaned back. The bridges weren't just crossings. They were filters, synchronized, hidden, built to look ordinary from the outside. The bells controlled the gates controlled the flow. And the flow decided who got the old price, and who got ruined by the new one. All of it quiet, all of it designed to pass as normal. She wrote in her journal, "This isn't infrastructure, it's a machine for creating winners and losers, and the winners never had to explain why they won." The archivist understood the mechanism now. Bells, gates, synchronized signals. But she still didn't understand the why. Why build all of this just to let one wagon cross first? Then she found a price ledger that made the purpose painfully clear. The ledger belonged to a grain merchant, dated 1884, 2 columns, plain accounting. Left column, purchases made at old price. Right column, purchases made at new price. Same merchant, same goods, same suppliers. Only the timing changed. Week of May 5, 1884. Monday, dawn crossing, old price. 200 barrels of grain, 10 coins each. Equals 2,000 coins. Expected resale, 13 coins each. Osti 2,600 coins. Profit, 600 coins. Tuesday diers, delayed crossing, new price. 200 barrels of grain, 12 coins each, almost on 2,400 coins. Expected resale, 13 coins each, Lesprom 2,600 coins. Profit, 200 coins, same resale price, but crossing 1 hour late, cut profit by 2/3. The archivist kept reading. By June, the pattern sharpened into something ugly. The merchant who crossed first each week stacked enough profit to buy an extra wagon. The merchant who crossed second stayed afloat, barely. The merchant who crossed third started selling inventory at cost just to cover debt. By September, the third merchant was gone. Out of business, his warehouse was auctioned, and the buyer was the first merchant. The archivist then found a city council report from 1879, a petition from smaller merchants. They complained the first crossing rule favored established families. Families with the money to arrive early, the men to hold a place in line, and the connections to lean on the gate. Families who could survive a bad week without collapsing. The council's response was preserved in neat handwriting. The old price provision ensures market stability by rewarding preparation and punctuality. It is not the role of municipal governance to redistribute the natural advantages of diligence. Natural advantages. The archivist stared at that phrase, because there was nothing natural about this. Then she found a private letter, a council member writing to his brother in 1880. The merchants complain about fairness, but they misunderstand the purpose. The old price isn't charity, it's a buffer. It keeps the market from collapsing during price shocks. The first caravan absorbs the old rate. Everyone else adjusts to the new reality. Without that buffer, we'd have panic, hoarding, riots. The system works because it's predictable. The insiders get stability, the outsiders get shocks, and the city gets order. Insiders get stability, outsiders get shocks. That wasn't a side effect. That was the design. The archivist mapped it out. The old price window lasted from dawn until the market bell at mid-morning, roughly 3 hours. During that window, a small group of merchants, almost always the same families, bought goods at yesterday's locked-in rate. By the time the market bell rang, they already had what they needed: grain, tools, fabric. Their carts were full, and when the new price hit, they didn't flinch. They were protected. But everyone else, they paid the new price every day. If grain jumped from 10 coins to 12 coins overnight, they ate the shock. If it jumped again the next week, they ate that too. No buffer, no shelter. Just exposure to every rumor, every bad harvest, every sudden shortage. Then the archivist found a bankruptcy filing dated 1887. A fabric merchant, small operation, family owned. The filing listed debts built up over 6 months. Each week, the merchant crossed the bridge in 3rd or 4th position. Each week, he paid the new price. Each week, his profit margin got thinner. By winter, he owed more than he owned. The filing ended with a handwritten note. Sold remaining stock to Heinrich & Sons at 40% below cost. Warehouse lease terminated. Family relocated to countryside. Heinrich & Sons. She checked the records. Heinrich & Sons crossed first, every week, for 11 years straight. Then she found one more document. A city modernization proposal dated 1891. It recommended eliminating the first crossing rule. The language sounded clean, modern, fair. Modern commerce requires equal access and transparent pricing. The old price provision creates artificial market segmentation and favors entrenched interests over competitive merit. The proposal passed. The rule was removed, effective immediately. But the archivist noticed a detail that changed the mood. The proposal came from a coalition of newer merchant families, families who had never crossed first, families who had been paying the new price for years, and within 3 months of the rule change, half of them were bankrupt. She found a follow-up report dated 1892. After the first crossing rule ended, prices became volatile, wild swings, daily shocks, no buffer at all. The old families, the ones who had crossed first for decades, had built up enough reserves to survive the chaos. They bought low during panic. They sold high during recovery. The newer families had no cushion, no stored capital, no safety line. They collapsed. And the old families bought their warehouses, their routes, and their supplier contracts. By 1893, Market concentration was higher than it had been under the old system. Fewer families, more control. The modernization didn't break the power, it hardened it. The archivist found a private letter dated 1894, never mailed. They wanted fairness, they got chaos. The old rule was cruel, yes, but it was predictable. You knew where you stood, now no one knows. Prices jump without warning, suppliers vanish overnight. The small merchants thought they were fighting privilege. What they were actually fighting was the only thing keeping them alive. She sat with that for a long time. The old price wasn't kindness. It was a controlled release valve, a way to let some people survive price shocks while everyone else swallowed the water. It created a class line, not with titles, not with uniforms, just with timing. Who crossed first, lived. Who crossed second, struggled. Who crossed third, disappeared. And whoever controlled that timing, whoever rang the bells, opened the gates, set the schedule, controlled everything. Not with armies, not even with open violence, with a 3-hour window and a 112 hertz tone. The archivist had documented 6 cities, 6 bridges, 6 bell towers, 6 sets of missing records. She thought that was the full picture. Then she found the 7th city. It appeared in a footnote, a Regional Trade Commission report, 1896. The report mentioned coordinated market protocols across bridge municipalities. Bridge municipalities, plural. She checked the appendix, listed 11 cities, 11. She had only found evidence for 6. She widened her search, pulled archives from smaller regional libraries, university collections, private donations, and the pattern repeated. City 7, token found in a demolished customs house, same brass, same first stamp. City 8, blueprint fragment showing a resonance chamber, same copper specifications. City 9, a bell tower with a sealed lower chamber, built 1871. City 10, missing bridge demolition report, structural concerns, no follow-up. City 11, market charter with the exact phrase, old price applies to first crossing. She mapped them all, 11 cities, spanning 800 kilometers, all along the same trade corridor, all built within a 7-year window, 1867 to 1874, all demolished or gutted within a decade, 1928 to 1938. The network was bigger than she'd thought, much bigger. Then she found the anomaly, a 12th city, small, remote, 300 kilometers south of the main route. No bridge, no river crossing, but the city archive had a bell tower inventory, 1873, and the tower had a sealed chamber, same copper plating, same resonance specifications, 112 hertz. She checked the trade maps. The city sat at a crossroads, not a bridge crossing, a road junction, where 2 major trade routes intersected. The same logic applied. Whoever controlled the junction controlled who traveled which route, and whoever controlled the timing controlled the price advantage. The archivist felt something shift. This wasn't about bridges, it was about choke points. Any place where traffic had to funnel through a narrow gate. Any place where timing mattered. Any place where first could mean survival. She found a shipping guild report, 1882. It mentioned coordinated departure protocols across the eastern corridor. But when she looked for the protocols themselves, they were missing. The index listed them. Guild Protocol 47, C, Market Synchronization. The file box was empty, just like the bridge ordinances, just like the demolition reports, always the same pattern, index cards pointing to ghosts. Then she found the torn pages, a city council minute book, 1890, pages 1 through 43, intact. Pages 44 through 49, missing. Pages 50 onward, intact. The missing section corresponded to council meetings in March 1890. The topic listed on the index, review of bridge operations and market tuosa, timing mechanisms. 6 pages, clean cuts, surgical removal. She found the same gap in 3 other cities, council minutes with missing pages. Always the same years, 1888 to 1892. Always the same topic, bridge operations, market protocols, timing systems. Someone had gone through multiple city archives and removed specific pages, not entire books, just the pages that mentioned the mechanisms. She found a demolition contractor's ledger, 1932. It listed materials salvaged from a bridge teardown, stone repurposed for new construction, iron sold as scrap, timber burned, and then, at the bottom, copper plating, resonance chambers, gate mechanisms, disposed per instruction. No salvage retained, no samples archived. Per instruction, the same phrase she'd seen before. Instruction from above. She found a memo next. Municipal Works Department, 1933, short, direct. All personnel involved in bridge demolition are reminded. Mechanism components are not to be discussed in official reports or public statements. Disposal protocols are classified. Questions should be directed to Regional Coordination Office. Regional Coordination Office. She searched for it. No such office existed in the city directories. No address, no staff listings, no budget allocations. It appeared in 3 demolition memos, and nowhere else. A ghost office issuing real instructions. The archivist made a timeline. 1867 to 1874, construction phase. 11 cities, coordinated build. 1875 to 1927. Operational phase, 52 years of synchronized markets, 1928 to 1938. Demolition phase, all bridges removed, all mechanisms destroyed. 1939 onward, erasure phase. Documents removed, pages torn, files emptied. She found one last piece, a private diary, 1934. Belonged to a city archivist. A man came today, well-dressed, polite. He asked to review bridge construction files. I showed him to the records room. When he left, I noticed 3 folders were thinner. I checked, pages missing. When I reported it to my supervisor, he told me to forget it. Said some records are administratively sensitive. I've been an archivist for 20 years. I know what that means. Someone is cleaning the past. Cleaning the past. The archivist looked at her map. 12 cities, 12 choke points, a network that spanned hundreds of kilometers, built in coordination, operated in synchronization, demolished systematically, and then erased, not forgotten, erased, by people with resources, authority, access to archives across multiple cities, people who knew exactly which pages to remove, which files to empty, which mechanisms to destroy without documentation. She wrote in her journal, "This wasn't one city's experiment. This was infrastructure, regional, coordinated, and someone spent decades making sure we'd always never understand how big it was." The archivist had built a solid case, 12 cities, coordinated construction, synchronized mechanisms, systematic erasure. Then she found the document that broke everything. It was a bridge inspection report, 1897, official, signed by 3 city engineers. The report described the Eastern Bridge in detail, stone construction, 5 arches, load capacity, drainage systems, standard technical documentation. But buried in the structural notes, one line, bridge design follows standard municipal specifications, no gatehouse structures present, no mechanical apparatus installed. No gatehouse, no mechanical apparatus. The archivist read it 3 times. She pulled the blueprints again. The same bridge, same year. The blueprint clearly showed a gatehouse, a controlled entry lane, underground resonance chambers. She checked the signature on the blueprint. Signed by the chief city engineer, 1870. She checked the signature on the inspection report. Signed by the same engineer, 27 years later. The same man who designed the gatehouse, now claiming it never existed. She found a second contradiction. A bridge demolition notice, 1932. Official reason, structural damage from catastrophic flooding, spring 1931. She pulled weather records, spring 1931. Rainfall, below average. River levels, normal seasonal variation. No floods reported, no emergency declarations, no damage assessments filed. She checked newspaper archives, March through June 1931. No flood coverage, no disaster reports, just routine agricultural news and market prices. But the demolition notice was unambiguous. Catastrophic flooding, a flood that left no trace in any contemporary record. She found a third problem. The demolition was approved in January 1932. Work began in February, but the catastrophic flood was dated to spring 1931, 9 months earlier. If the bridge had been catastrophically damaged, why wait 9 months to demolish it? Why no emergency repairs, no traffic rerouting, no safety warnings? She found customs records from summer 1931. The bridge was operating normally, caravans crossing daily, fees collected, no interruptions noted. A bridge supposedly destroyed by flooding, still processing commerce 4 months after the alleged disaster. She found a photograph next, dated August 1931, a civic celebration, market festival. In the background, the Eastern Bridge, intact, functional, crowded with pedestrians. 3 months after the catastrophic flood, the archivist laid out the contradictions. 1. Engineer claims no gatehouse existed. His own blueprints prove otherwise. 2. Demolition cites flooding. Weather records show no flood. 3. Bridge supposedly damaged in spring. Photo shows it intact in summer. 4. Emergency demolition. Approved 9 months after the alleged emergency? She searched for explanations. Maybe the inspection report was wrong, a clerical error, but the report was detailed. 12 pages, multiple signatures, filed in triplicate. Maybe the flood was localized, undocumented, but rivers don't flood without rain. And rain gets recorded. Maybe the photo was mislabeled, but the festival date matched newspaper announcements. The background architecture matched survey maps. She found one more piece, a fire insurance claim. 1933, filed by a merchant whose warehouse sat near the Eastern Bridge. The claim mentioned property damage from bridge demolition debris. The insurance company disputed it. Their investigators note, claimant states bridge collapse caused damage. City records indicate controlled demolition, not structural failure. Debris field inconsistent with flood damage. Claim denied. Controlled demolition, not collapse, not flood damage. A planned teardown disguised as an emergency. The archivist checked the other cities, found the same pattern. City 4, demolition reason listed as fire damage. No fire department records exist. City 7, foundation subsidence. Geological surveys from that year show stable bedrock. City 9, outdated design unsuitable for modern traffic. Traffic counts were declining, not increasing. Every demolition had an official explanation, and every explanation contradicted the available evidence. But here's what made her stop. In City 6, she found both versions of the truth. 2 sets of files, same archive, different storage locations. Box A contained the official story. Bridge damaged, safety concerns, demolition necessary. Box B contained maintenance logs showing the bridge passed inspection 3 months before demolition. Structural integrity rated excellent. Both boxes survived. Both boxes sat 30 meters apart in the same archive. One told the public story, one told the truth, and nobody had bothered to reconcile them. The archivist realized something. The erasure wasn't perfect. It was selective. Someone had removed the technical documents, the mechanisms, the protocols, the things that would prove the network existed. But they'd left the contradictions, the impossible floods, the missing fires, the engineers who denied their own work. Maybe they thought no one would notice, or maybe they thought the contradictions would be dismissed as bureaucratic incompetence, sloppy record-keeping, human error, not evidence of a cover-up. She wrote in her journal, "The official story doesn't just hide the truth, it replaces it with nonsense. And nonsense is harder to investigate than lies, because lies have to be coherent. Nonsense just sits there, daring you to make sense of it." And below that, "I can prove the bridges had mechanisms, I can prove they were demolished on purpose, but I can't prove why. The only people who knew are dead, and the files that would explain it are gone." She looked at her map one last time. 12 cities, 12 bridges, 12 impossible stories. The past wasn't just forgotten. It had been made incoherent, on purpose. The archivist had hit a wall. The bridges were gone. The mechanisms destroyed. The records incoherent. But something bothered her more than the missing evidence. The silence. She found a newspaper archive. 1932. The year the first bridge was demolished, she expected protests, editorials, public outcry. This was major infrastructure, decades old, central to commerce. But the newspaper coverage was brief, one paragraph. Page 7. Municipal Works Department announces demolition of Eastern Bridge due to structural concerns. Alternative crossing available via northern route. Minimal disruption expected. Minimal disruption. For a bridge that had controlled market access for 50 years. She checked the Merchant Guild records. Surely they'd objected, demanded explanation, filed complaints. But the Guild minutes from 1932 were normal. Routine business, membership dues, harvest forecasts. No mention of the bridge, no discussion of the rule change, no reference to the first crossing provision that had defined their world. It was as if the system had never existed. She found a letter, 1934, written by an elderly merchant to his son. You asked about the old way of doing things. I'm not sure I can explain it properly. We used to wait at the bridge. There was an order to it, a rhythm. You knew where you stood. Now everything moves faster, but feels less certain. I can't say which is better, just different. The young merchants don't remember it, and I find I'm forgetting too. Forgetting, not erased by force, just fading. The archivist realized something. When a system vanishes without a funeral, people don't know how to mourn it. They don't know if they're supposed to mourn it, so they just move on. She found economic records next, trade volumes, merchant registrations, warehouse inventories. The years following demolition showed a shift. The old merchant families, the ones who had crossed first for decades, began selling assets, warehouses, supplier contracts, trade routes, not bankrupt, just withdrawing. Their children moved to cities, took jobs in administration, finance, modern industries. The families who replaced them were different, younger, more mobile, less tied to specific bridges or routes. They didn't wait at gates. They used telegraphs, railways, faster systems. Systems where first meant something different, not first across a bridge, first to receive a telegram, first to board a train, first to access new information. She found a guild dissolution notice, 1941. The old Merchant Association formally disbanded. Reason given, membership decline and changing commercial practices render traditional guild structure obsolete. Obsolete. 60 years of operation, hundreds of members. Gone with one vote and a filing fee. But things survived. The archivist found records of craft workshops closing, specialized trades that had serviced the old system, bronze casters who made the tokens, copper platers who lined the chambers, bell tuners who calibrated the frequencies. Between 1930 and 1945, 12 such workshops closed. Their skills died with them, not because of war or plague, just because no one needed those specific crafts anymore. She found an estate auction catalog, 1938. Among the listed items, Lot 47, collection of antique brass tokens, origin unknown, decorative, estimated value, minimal. The tokens that men had fought over, that had represented survival, sold as curiosities for pocket change. The archivist thought about that. How quickly power becomes decoration, how quickly essential becomes obsolete, how quickly a system that controlled entire regions becomes something people half remember and can't quite explain. She found a memoir, written in 1956, an old caravan master reflecting on his youth. People ask me what it was like in the old days. I tell them it was harder, more brutal in some ways, but there was a clarity to it. You knew the rules. You knew what winning and losing looked like. Now, everything's easier. But I wonder sometimes if we lost something when we stopped having to fight for position. Not the fighting itself, but the knowing. The understanding that place matters, that timing matters, that someone always goes first, whether we acknowledge it or not. The archivist closed the memoir. The merchant was right. Someone always goes first. The old system made it visible. The new system made it invisible. But the advantage remained. She found one more document, a city planning proposal, 1952. The proposal suggested rebuilding one of the demolished bridges. Modern design, wider span, better traffic flow. The proposal included historical context. The original bridge, demolished in 1932, served the community for 60 years. Its removal was necessitated by structural concerns and changing transportation needs. Structural concerns. The same lie, now 20 years old, repeated so many times it had become true, not factually true, but true enough that no one questioned it. The archivist realized the erasure was complete, not because the evidence was destroyed, but because the context was gone. The people who remembered why the bridges mattered were dead. The crafts that maintained them were extinct. The economic system that depended on them had evolved, and the next generation didn't care, not because they were ignorant, but because it didn't matter to their lives. She wrote in her journal, "This is how systems vanish, not with violence, not with drama, just with time and silence and the quiet agreement that some things are better left unexplained." And below that, but the advantage didn't vanish, it just found new mechanisms. The archivist thought the system was dead. Then she found it hiding in plain sight. She was reviewing folk festival records, cultural preservation projects, local traditions, just background research, nothing urgent. Then she saw it. City 3 held an annual First Wagon Festival. Established in 1947, the festival featured a race, children pulling decorated carts across a chalk line. The winner received a brass medallion, stamped with one word, first. The festival organizers called it a charming local tradition celebrating our agricultural heritage. But the archivist checked the dates. 1947. 15 years after the bridge was demolished. This wasn't ancient tradition. This was recent invention, a game built on the skeleton of something older. She found a second festival, City 7. Bridge Run Day, held every spring. Participants lined up before dawn, waited for a bell, ran across the river path. First runner won a token, the bell that started the race, cast in 1873. Same bell that once rang from the tower, now mounted in the town square, decorative, rung once a year, for fun. She found a third tradition, City 9, a children's game called First Step. Players lined up single file. Someone rang a handbell. The first child to step forward won the round. But the rules were specific. You couldn't step before the bell. You couldn't push ahead in line. You had to wait, listen, move precisely when the tone came. The children didn't know why. They just knew those were the rules. The archivist found an interview with a festival organizer, 1968. The interviewer asked about the origins. "Oh, it's just something we've always done. My grandfather told me about it. Something about the old market days, merchants waiting at the bridge. We thought it would make a nice festival theme. Just something we've always done." The organizer didn't know about the mechanisms, didn't know about the price windows or the synchronized gates. Just knew. People used to line up, a bell rang, and the first person mattered. So they turned it into a game. She found something else, a church bell schedule, City 4. The bells rang 3 times daily, dawn, noon, evening, standard religious practice. But the dawn bell was different, low tone, 8 seconds, precisely. She checked the frequency, 112 hertz, the same tone that once triggered the gates, still ringing. Every morning, nobody questioned it. It was just how the church bells had always sounded. Then she found the modern evidence, a civil engineering survey. 2003. The city was planning a riverside development. Preliminary soil testing near the old bridge foundation. One engineer noted an anomaly. Seismic sensors detected low-frequency vibration, steady, approximately 110 to 115 hertz, source unclear, possibly underground water flow or residual structural resonance from demolished bridge foundation. Does not affect development plans. Noted for record. Low-frequency vibration, still present, 70 years after demolition. The copper channels were still conducting something, still resonating, still vibrating at the frequency that once synchronized an entire network. The archivist checked coordinates. The vibration source aligned exactly with where the resonance chamber would have been. Underground, sealed, forgotten, but still humming. She thought about that. The mechanisms were destroyed. The bridges demolished. The people who built them long dead. But the vibration remained. Not loud enough to hear. just a frequency in the ground, measured by accident, dismissed as irrelevant. A ghost signal from a vanished system, and above it, children played games about going first. Churches rang bells at dawn. Festivals celebrated traditions nobody fully understood. The system was gone, but its shape remained, pressed into culture like a fossil, visible only if you knew what to look for. She wrote in her journal, "We don't remember the machine, but we remember the rhythm, and we keep repeating it without knowing why." The archivist had spent months in the past, bridges, bells, tokens. Then she looked at her phone and realized the system never ended. It just changed shape. She was buying concert tickets online. The sale opened at 10 a.m. She refreshed at 9:59, waited, clicked the instant the clock changed. Tickets sold out in 43 seconds. She got nothing. Someone else, 1 second faster, got front row seats. Same money, same internet connection, same desire, different speed, different outcome. She thought about the bridge, 2 caravans, 1 minute apart. One pays the old price, one pays the new price. Same goods, same merchant, same morning, different timing, different survival. The mechanism was identical, only the technology had changed. She found an article, Financial Markets, High-Frequency Trading. The article explained trading firms pay millions to locate their servers physically closer to stock exchanges, closer by meters, sometimes centimeters, because milliseconds matter. A trader 3 meters closer to the exchange server executes orders faster, buys at a lower price, sells at a higher price, profits from speed advantage that humans can't even perceive. The old system used bells and copper channels. The new system uses fiber optic cables and microwave towers. But the principle remains: whoever goes first wins. She found another example: airline ticket pricing. 2 people search for the same flight, same day, same route. Person A searches first, sees one price. Person B searches 30 seconds later, sees a higher price. The algorithm detected demand, adjusted instantly. The second person pays more, not because they're different, because they were slower. She thought about this. In the old system, you could see the advantage. You could watch the first caravan cross, see the token presented, know exactly why they won. In the new system, the advantage is invisible, buried in algorithms, hidden in server locations, obscured by complexity. You lose. You don't know why. You just know someone else got there first. She found a report on online shopping. Prices change hundreds of times per day. The same product costs different amounts at different moments. Buy at 9 a.m., one price. Buy at 9:15 a.m., different price. You can't predict it, can't game it. You're just exposed to whatever the algorithm decides you should pay, unless you're fast enough to catch the window, the old price window, which now lasts seconds instead of hours. The archivist made a comparison. Old system. First caravan crosses at dawn. Old price. Second caravan crosses later. New price. Advantage, visible, predictable, controllable by elites. New system, first click, executes, lower price. Second click, executes, higher price. Advantage, invisible, unpredictable, controllable by algorithms. The structure was the same. The honesty was gone. She found one more example. Real estate listings. Properties appear online. First viewer gets first offer. Rights, but some buyers have early access. Premium subscriptions, agent networks. They see listings hours before public release. By the time regular buyers see the property, the first offers are already submitted. Same market, different access windows. First sees, first wins. She wrote in her journal, "The old system was brutal, but at least you could see the bridge, see the gate, see who crossed first. You knew what you were fighting. And below that, now the bridge is invisible. The gate opens and closes in milliseconds, and we're told it's fair because everyone has internet access. But access isn't the same as advantage. The old merchants knew that. We've forgotten." She thought about the question that haunted her. Was the old system worse? It was visible, controllable, corrupt. But you could point at it, fight it, demand change. The new system is efficient, distributed, algorithmic. but you can't see it, can't challenge it, can't even prove it exists. She remembered the token, the brass worn smooth by 10,000 hands. People knew what it meant, knew what it bought, knew who controlled it. Now we carry tokens in our pockets, credit cards, smartphones, digital wallets. We use them every day, but we don't know what invisible gates they're opening, or who decides we get to go first. The archivist closed her final folder. Months of research, 12 cities, hundreds of documents, and she still couldn't prove it definitively. But she could prove the pattern. The skeptics had good arguments. Maybe the tokens were just merchant badges, status symbols. Maybe the bridge mechanisms were standard toll infrastructure. Maybe the missing records were lost to fires, floods, bureaucratic incompetence. Maybe the synchronized construction was coincidence. Maybe the festivals remembered nothing real, all possible, all reasonable. But then she laid out what remained unexplained, the same frequency, 112 hertz, across 6 cities. The same construction window, 7 years, across 12 bridges. The same demolition window, 10 years, erasing all of them. The same missing pages, always about bridge operations, in 8 archives. The same phrase, completed as instructed, not as designed, in 3 separate engineer journals. The same impossible official stories, floods that didn't happen, fires without smoke. She couldn't prove conspiracy, but she could prove pattern, and patterns don't happen by accident across 800 kilometers and 60 years. She returned to the original question. Why would anyone value first more than gold? And the answer became clear. Gold is heavy, you can count it, hoard it, lock it away. But gold doesn't feed your family in winter. It doesn't protect you from price shocks. It doesn't guarantee your survival when harvests fail. Priority is different. Priority is light, mobile, instant. If you control who goes first, you control everything downstream. You control who buys, cheap and sells dear, who expands and who contracts, who survives winter and who sells their tools. Priority is power that doesn't look like power. It looks like timing. Luck, being in the right place, but it's not. It's structure, built into bridges, bells, gates that open automatically when the right tone sounds, hidden in plain sight, erased when it becomes visible. The archivist thought about the modern world. We still worship speed, pay premiums for faster shipping, faster internet, faster execution. We call it efficiency. But efficiency for whom? The first caravan paid the old price. The first trader executes at the best price. The first buyer gets the property. The mechanism is timeless. Only the language changes. She found one last document, a letter never sent, written by an engineer in 1931. They're tearing down the bridges, destroying the mechanisms, removing all evidence. They say it's progress, modernization. But I built those systems. I know what they were, not just infrastructure, a way of organizing power without admitting it. Maybe that's why they're erasing it, not because it failed, but because it worked too well. And someone realized that visible control is vulnerable. Invisible control is permanent. The archivist wrote her final note. Maybe the lost technology wasn't a machine. Maybe it was the rule, the visible, honest rule that said, first wins. And we lost it not because we evolved beyond it, but because we found a better way to hide it. She looked at the brass token one last time. Worn smooth, stamped with one word. First. Not best, not richest, not deserving, just first. In Tartaria, or whatever we choose to call those bridge cities, they valued priority above gold, not because they were primitive, but because they understood something we've forgotten. Gold can be stolen, taxed, redistributed, but the right to go first, that's invisible wealth, the kind that compounds silently, the kind that builds dynasties, the kind that vanishes from records but never from reality. The bridges are gone, the bells are silent, the tokens are museum curiosities, but somewhere, right now, someone is going first, getting the old price, crossing before the window closes, winning because they were faster by a second. And we don't call it a gate anymore. We call it the market. We call it efficiency. We call it progress. But the caravan masters would recognize it immediately. They'd see the line, the timing, the quiet violence of being second. They valued first more than gold, because they knew gold is just metal, first is position, and position is everything.